Yes.
So we're on the.
We're live.
All right, gang, we're gonna get started here. Appreciate you guys all being here. Mr. Mayor, if you want to come to Bill. Anyone here can come in. Okay. As part of our program today, Fire Chief is going to have a discussion about AEDs and the thermal imaging cameras that our club donated last spring to the fire department. But we also are going to donate an AED machine here for the new building at the parks. This will be the second one we put in the park building. Is that correct? We've got one for Rotary. Yep. So, and we think we've placed half dozen or so of these around town. The project was started by Dave and Jody Anderson. Dave's father had a heart attack and actually was saved by an AED device, and so they wanted to bring those to Bowling Green, and Rotary Club put them on the as a result. And so we thought this, with the being in the city park, and we have like a pool, but that facility is not always open. We thought this would increase access here. So I appreciate you all for coming today to be here. We hope that this is something that will add value to. There's no question, quite good, Andy. I'd like to start this by saying thank you for you guys. This is tremendous. We said many of these same things when you just last year. I think it was when they did the. You guys do so much. You step up and find ways to contribute in positive, tangible ways to the community. And I cannot tell you how much the club is just extraordinary in working to do, the impact that you have on this community. I'm so grateful. So thank you again for this donation. We will certainly will have a very positive impact. And Kristen has already notified me of the next location, the parks. When we have the opportunity to fundraise for local. Outstanding. Thank you all very much. Kristen, do you want to say anything at all? Or you're a Hawaiian, so I'm not sure.
No, I'm an extreme.
Okay.
No, just thank you for much. It's fantastic to have this here well covered in this part.
Thank you. Also, as part of this, we are conducting a fundraiser to pay for this in part, and also for some scholarships for high school students in the area. We're going to have a raffle drawing. One of you fine public servants like to make the drawing of do the honors.
Someone's going to win $500.
$500 here. Okay. Let me just draw mine.
Lucky ticket is. And you no. No, it is my glasses. Mike Zeisig.
Yeah, Mike Zeisig. Pinnacle I group. Oh, that's Mila's.
Mila.
Number 163, ticket 163. And with that, I appreciate your time and being here. We have another meeting after this. And Bill, you can take the floor. All right, thank you. Great. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Mayor.
Once again, I just want to thank the Rotary Club for their wonderful donations, not only for the seat that we got approximately a year ago to this AED. These pieces of equipment save lives. There's no question about it. The AED, that's the first line of defense for a successful outcome when it comes to the survivability.
You got to have the photo up.
Yeah. What I do have I have someone here with me today. His name is Brandon Westerman. He's a client paramedic with the city of Bowling Green. And I'm actually going to let Brandon do some talking. So I don't know if he can actually, you guys can hear him through the phone here. But Brandon, about a year and a half, 2 years ago, he approached me and said, we have a lot of AEDs in the city of Bowling Green. And the people who work in those stores or where those AEDs are located, they know where those AEDs. Wouldn't it be a good idea that if someone was to call 911 because someone was having a heart attack and the dispatcher on the other end of that phone could say, okay, okay, there is an AED located in the store next to you, go over there and get that AED, okay? And that will make the difference between someone living and dying. So Brandon, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Chief.
Do you want to just briefly talk about that AED program that you set up, please?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. I'm Brandon Westerman, firefighter paramedic with Bowling Green Fire Division. I'm coming to you from my little mountaineer man cave here in the basement of my home. I'm currently on a COVID quarantine, so I couldn't be there in person, but thanks for having us out today. Thanks for your continued support for the fire division and the community through programs like the thermal imaging cameras and donating the AEDs. With the AED emergency locator program that the chief has brought up to you, it came about as we kind of were looking for ways to improve our heart care to the community and provide the best response we could. And as the chief mentioned, we knew there was many AEDs throughout the community through pre-planning and being out and about, seeing them, but there's no way or no system to track where they're at and to get them to the proper person in case of an emergency. So there are some third-party software companies and programs that for a huge expense will do this. I talked to a couple of them. The most notable one in the industry is it's called Pulse Point, but we were looking at a cost of almost 6 digits and hundreds of thousands of dollars to set that up. So what I wanted to do was take on, something to map this out for our community and find a way to put it all together. Obviously, it was a tall task, and I needed some support from others, which have really came together to make it happen for us. So what we did was started a media campaign throughout the community. I talked to the Sentinel and the BG Independent. We even had 13 ABC down, and they did an interview. And we discussed what we were looking to do to help find these AEDs. And we put together an email system as well as gave out phone numbers so people could call in throughout the community that had them. And then we sent some firefighters out. We kind of built a list of different locations we thought may have them. We had good ideas where they were or where they should be. That way we could identify places that might need them. And we took out to the community on the streets and looked around to see what we could find. When we were all said and done, so far we've located over 90 AEDs in the city of Bowling Green. That's including about 25 that are on the campus at BGSU. So as the chief said, we want to get these locations mapped out to give our dispatchers the ability to see them on a computer screen, see them on a map, and be able to give a 911 caller an accurate direction of where they need to go to retrieve an AED in this emergency. And through the American Heart Association, they really stress for AED defibrillation within 5 minutes of somebody going into cardiac arrest. And that'll provide the highest chance of survival. And every minute after that 5-minute mark, that chance of survival decreases about 10%. Now, at Bowling Green Fire, we strive at being good and being fast and getting everywhere, but it's just not physically possible for us to be everywhere in the city within 5 minutes of a 911 call. Especially during our run volumes, when times are elevated, we may be busy out on other calls and whatnot. So that's where these AEDs really come in to be a backbone and bridge that gap in time and get that device there to help out. What we've started to do now is working with the city GIS department, and they actually have computer maps of the city that they use for anything from fire hydrants to gas lines. It tracks all addresses and many ways throughout the community. So they build a layer into that GIS mapping for us for AEDs. So now we're going around with the software and trying to get to all of these points and physically plot them in the map. So we'll be able to have them on a computer screen along with our hydrants and all the other notable information that we can pull up on that mapping system. So that's going to give us just a snapshot view of where something may be. And then when they click on an AED on that map, we have the options to add descriptions. So we can give detailed directions to where it's at in there. There can be photos. So if it's in a container, like you can see the chief has there, it'll be wall mounted. So we might have a photo where that's at on the wall, or any other special direction that comes along with that and where people need to go. Our goal is to make it as easy and as practical as possible for the average citizen to find this AED in the course of an emergency. And all of our dispatchers at the county are trained as emergency medical dispatchers. So while they're sending someone to get this direction, they can be coaching a caller on CPR. And then when the AED is there and present at the patient, they can give the instructions on how to utilize the AEDs. So as far as the AED program, there's a lot going on with it still. It's a lot of moving pieces. It's taken some time, but we found a way to get it done, to be efficient and not use a lot of money, to try to use our time wisely, you know, to help benefit the citizens and the visitors of the city.
I've actually kept Brandon pretty busy over the last couple of years. One of the other things that goes along with AEDs and heart attacks, well, actually with heart attacks, is the early application of AEDs. So one of the things that Brandon also did is it's called Mission Lifeline, and it's basically it's a recognition from the American Heart Association that recognizes fire departments or EMS agencies that excel in pre-hospital care to their patients, especially in the area of heart attacks. So what happened was Brandon actually, he compiled a lot of data that we had, all our runs that were involved with some kind of heart attack type victims. And he submitted that to the American Heart Association. And what we ended up getting was this award for pre-hospital recognition from the American Heart Association in giving exemplary care to our pre-hospital patients. This is what they call the Silver Plus Award. Actually, it goes all the way up to Gold Plus. In your first year of recognition, you can only accomplish the Silver Plus Award. We actually met the criteria for the Gold Plus, so when we apply next year, I really expect that we will have the Gold Plus Award. Once again, this is something that Brandon put together. I'm going to have him talk about it here in a couple of minutes. But along with that, we also got recognition from State Senator Teresa Gavarone in our pre-hospital care along the lines of our care towards our patients who are having some kind of a heart attack. So that was a pretty cool award that we received from both American Heart Association and Teresa Gavarone. But I'm just going to have Brandon just quickly talk about what this Mission Lifeline is, because it is directly related to AEDs. So just a quick overview of what it is, please, Brandon.
Sure thing, Chief. So the Mission Lifeline program is put on by the American Heart Association, and the American Heart Association establishes all the guidelines for cardiac care for medical providers in EMS as well as in the hospitals. And we got into this initiative part of as our reassessment with our fire accreditation. As many know, we're accredited through the Commission of Fire Accreditation International. And in our reassessment, one of the things they wanted us to look at was how we were doing outreach to the community for heart care through CPR and stuff like that, other training. It's continuous quality improvement, self-assessment, and Mission Lifeline program is great because it provides you with some of the highest standards the AHA allows with their guidelines for pre-hospital care. As Chief said, we got the Silver Plus Award this year. That is the highest level of recognition you can achieve in your first year. Achieving the Gold Plus Award, which is the highest level, only comes after you have achieved the Silver Plus and then continue to maintain your high quality care for at least 2 years in a row. As part of the Silver Plus, there's 4 criteria, and there's also a plus criteria. So actually a total of 5 criteria you have to meet. And you have to meet these criteria with a 75% or greater throughout the year to achieve that. Some of those criteria for us, and I'll try to explain it in layman's terms the best I can. The first criteria is that as a fire division, we are getting to every patient who's over the age of 35 and displaying symptoms of a heart attack, and we're doing a 12-lead EKG on that patient. It's practical standard of care. You know, it's spending a little extra time to see what's going on there, and it's one of the extremely useful diagnostic tools we have at the fire division to look. And all of our paramedics are trained to interpret these and to notice if somebody is having a heart attack based on the readout we get from these 12-lead EKGs. Now, if somebody does present with what we call a STEMI or ST elevated myocardial infarction, which everybody knows is a heart attack, and we see that on paper, within 10 minutes, we are providing what they call a STEMI alert or a notification to the hospital where we'll be transporting this patient to let them know we are on our way to you right now with somebody having a heart attack. And what that second criteria does is make sure that the teams at the hospital are able to prepare and be ready for this patient coming in. And it speeds up the time to which we transition the patient to hospital care and they get to the cath lab, which is the ultimate treatment for a heart attack. So they can get in there and get that intervention done to open up the blood flow and save that heart tissue. So criteria 2, we're doing all the notifications within 10 minutes of getting that 12 lead EKG. The third criteria, and it's usually the challenge, is that we are getting the patient to that facility and they are actually receiving the heart catheterization, or PCI as they call it, within 90 minutes of the first patient contact. So that's as we walk in the door and lay eyes on our patients, we have 90 minutes to have them at the hospital, and there's a catheter going into their heart and they're opening up a balloon to restore that blood flow. Very proud of the fact we actually hit 100% on that mark throughout the year. So, you know, the challenge for us in Bowling Green is we're a little distance from some big hospitals. Wood County is not able to provide that intervention. So when we're transporting these patients, most of them are either going to St. Luke's in Maumee, or we're taking them to St. Vincent's or Toledo Hospital in Toledo. So we have to be moving quickly when we get to these patients. We do our 12 lead, give that prompt notification, and then hit 75 north, and we're heading up there to get to a facility that can do the interventions we need. And then get the patient in, transfer them over, and then they get the surgery they need within 90 minutes. So it's really good that we're doing that. And that kind of segues into the fourth criteria, which is it's based on patients that don't get transported to a STEMI facility, and it's really not an ideal criteria. So we're actually, that does not apply to us since we take all of our STEMI patients to a hospital that can give them the ultimate best care they need. And then the last one is the plus criteria, and it's actually part of the first criteria with 12 leads, that we're giving all those patients the 12 leads they need, and we're doing that within 10 minutes of walking in the door. So we're not anymore, you know, getting in, getting the patient, taking them out to the ambulance. What we want to do is get there, get our monitor to the patient, put the patches on the patient, and see what their heart's doing right away. And then we'll make a transport decision from that and quickly provide a notification of where we're going so they can get ready to get this patient straight to the cath lab. And it helps them skip the ER process, the registration, and everything. And usually we're taking these patients straight to a surgical table. So they go from our cot onto a surgical table, and they're having that intervention done to restore that blood flow to the heart. So we are one of 5 agencies in Northwest Ohio that actually received this award. There's only 88 in the state of Ohio that were recognized. So it's something we're pretty proud of. And as Chief mentioned, we had recognition from the senator there. So it was a great thing to be a part of, and we're going to keep that program up just because it's our duty as servants of the community to make sure we're providing the best possible service we can. So, Chief, I'll hand it back to you.
I appreciate all the hard work you've done, Brandon. I mean, these things that you've implemented are game changers for a lot of the community of Bowling Green, they really are. And I said this at the start, the things that you guys have donated save lives. I mean, they will save a life. This AED, as I said, that's the first line of defense to making somebody having a positive outcome. These the seats that you guys just recently donated, we end up getting a total of 10 seats, okay, through your donation. What that has enabled us to do is each person that's going to go into a fire situation has their own personal thermal imaging camera now. And I'm going to give you a little history lesson when it comes to thermal imaging cameras. In 1998, this little beauty right here was donated to us by the Rotary Club. It cost approximately $20,000, and that was back in 1990. And it's still working today. We actually still utilize it on one of our vehicles. Then we have 4 generations of thermal imaging cameras. A few years later, 5 to 10 years later, we start getting these ones. They're a little smaller. They can they have a few more features that this old one doesn't offer. But I mean, these are game changers. These allow our guys to be able to see through the smoke, see in the dark, to locate a victim if there's a victim in there, and find where that fire is tearing down half the house, looking for a fight. This one here, that one I just showed you is about $16,000. This is one of our more recent ones that we utilize. This is what they call a bollet. It's a thermal imaging camera. It has the ability to go into color mode, so it just helps the firefighter distinguish a few different features out there. So you can see the difference in size already. I mean, going from generation 1 to generation number 3. These guys cost about $11,000, okay? And we just purchased a couple of these about 2 years ago. Once again, because of the cost, we're only having one per vehicle. Brings to the seats that you guys donated to us. Amazing little devices. It allows each and every one of our firefighters to have one with him when he's going into the burning building. And that's safety. Safety to the firefighter, safety to the victim that he's going in there to rescue. It's gone from $21,000, something this size, to $700, something this size. Okay? These things are game changers. And as I said, they will save lives out there. So once again, I know the mayor said it, but I just want to thank you guys. What you guys do is amazing, absolutely amazing. You give us the tools to allow us to do our job correctly. They're not cheap, and so we certainly appreciate your donation. And I'm going to say one more time, these things save lives, so thank you very much. The community just should be very proud of everything that the Rotary Club does. So I know that we appreciate every donation that you give us. Yeah, and thank you very much. Anyone have any questions quickly?
Can I ask a question from behind you?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you can ask a question, Betty. Yes.
With the AEDs, I know that when we first set the whole program up, we were going to go around 2 years after we started to start replacing the batteries because there's a life with the
Correct.
battery. Is that something that you guys are now doing through your GIS? Is that it? Is that the right initial?
I can speak to this a little bit.
Okay, thank you.
Dave and Jody have actually gone around and found the expiration dates. They are at a 5-year, it's a 5-year battery life.
Battery, okay.
It's about $200 to replace those,
Right.
so they're gonna start doing that. I think they'll either approach us or other donations as well, but Dave and Jody, at least with this first run through, are in the process of replacing
okay.
us. Yeah.
And that's fantastic. Thank you.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
I mean, they don't do any good if they don't have a good battery.
Yeah.
Correct.
So,
Yes.
thank you. Any other questions from anybody else? Well, thank you very much. Once again, I can't say it enough how much we appreciate all your donations and all the help that you guys do for the community. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
And that will conduct the weirdest Rotary meeting I've ever been to. A partial Zoom location, partial, people in their houses. Thank you so much for doing this. But we will continue to try to come up with ways to make these successful. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all.
We'll be in touch. And I'll be sending out my email later today. Carl's all over me. So with the folks who have failed to get their funds in place. Yes.
Yes. And
Yes. Have a great Thanksgiving. We'll talk to you in 2 weeks. Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you all.